Let's talk about ADHD in men because there's a lot of myths out there. Is ADHD even real, or is it just boys being boys? We picture this rambunctious class clown who can't sit still, or this absent-minded kid just staring out the window, taking forever on a test. Those stereotypes exist for a reason: hyperactivity and inattentiveness. But as an adult, as a man, ADHD shows up differently. I'm Scott Treas. I'm a trained clinician and an active life coach specializing in adult ADHD. And I've been there. I wasn't diagnosed until my early 30s, but I knew something was off for years. In school, I was always in trouble for interrupting or acting out. Not because I was bad, but because I was bored out of my mind. And then I could BS my way mostly to get some A's and some B's. But in college, that's when this chronic procrastination really hit hard. I couldn't break tasks down into chunks like others did. I'd wait until last minute and then hyper focus, banging out a 10, 15-page paper in one frantic night to pull off an A, and really only losing some points for silly mistakes because I truly never bothered to proofread it. And risky stuff, sure. Yes, please. I loved climbing cliffs without gears or hitting 100 miles an hour or plus on my motorcycle. It's thrilling but dangerous. And I'm grateful, truly grateful, that I didn't even start drinking alcohol till I was around 21, and because I just think that probably just saved me from getting in real trouble. But the toughest part of, I think, having ADHD is that inner turmoil. The frustration over not doing what I should do, like paying taxes on time, or even doing what I wanted to do, right? This deep desire, such as, sticking to a diet or exercise program, or even starting my business ideas earlier. That overwhelm, rumination, and chaos, that's ADHD. And as a clinician, I've seen this in probably over 1,000 men throughout my years that I've worked with. Just a quick recap, what is ADHD? It stands for Attention Deficit Hyperactive Disorder. And it's the same neurodevelopmental condition for everyone. Meaning that there is a difference in the brain's development to function, impacting our ability to regulate our mind, emotions, and behavior. And that word regulate is key because it means being able to moderate or control ourselves, right? It's just as difficult to pay attention to something like studying as it is to unpay attention, something like managing distractions. And research says that ADHD in young men often shows up in externalized behaviors, right? Impulsivity, risk-taking, even aggressive, unlike women who tend to lean towards internalized struggles like anxiety. Studies show that 65% of ADHD men struggle with impulsivity, like quitting jobs on a whim or starting fights. 77% of us battle with time management, missing deadlines or showing up late. Socially, we're expected to man up, so we hide our chaos, but that leads to burnout or trouble, like getting fired, which 60% of ADHDers face. You might be big on taking risks, like launching a side hustle, only to crash when that motivation fades. I know I was like that, chasing my shiny ideas and then beating myself up when I didn't sustain. But here's a flip side. That same wiring makes you bold, creative, and built for high energy roles. That's why 29% of entrepreneurs have ADHD. The key is channel it, don't fight it. ADHD can turn life into a roller coaster. In relationships, impulsivity might be blurting out things or ghosting friends. Research says that ADHD men are 2 times more likely to have social conflict. At work, 60% of us face that job instability, right? Quitting or getting fired because those routine jobs just bore us to death. I've had clients lose jobs for missing deadlines due to time blindness. Addiction's a big risk too. Studies show that 25% of ADHD men struggle with substance use, explicit content, or compulsive gaming because we're chasing that dopamine. But your ADHD also gives you strengths: hyperfocus for intense tasks, creativity for problem solving, boldness for taking risks. So let's talk about a few things that you can do. The first thing that you want to do, the first step to any of this is by naming the problem. Getting an accurate diagnosis from a specialist. Because the amount of times that I've seen when someone go from their family's shame narrative, right, of being lazy or lacking motivation, to really it's executive dysfunction or dopamine dysregulation. When you name the problem, you can start to understand it. And with that understanding, you can finally do something about it. For example, I worked with this college student who was super avoidant. And when he was asked to do something, he was completely overwhelmed and shut down. Now, we could call that avoidant personality disorder or dysfunctional task initiation. But what he called it was trouble getting started. Because once he got started, he was almost always likely to finish. And that's a very different one than someone who's about 30 minutes in and loses steam and moves on to something different. So make sure you name the problem correctly. And then 2, build structure. We hate being controlled, but we're screwed without structure. So create your own rules, routines, and rituals. Use visual timers, to-do lists, and definitely accountability buddies. Set up daily check-ins to stay on track. You also have to try out your structure by literally doing it and adjusting it as you go. You don't have to have everything figured out right away. And you can structure your environment too, right? If you know that your procrastination is triggered by ambiguous tasks, then you might have to plan your project or shut down the internet access. And then 3, and this is probably my favorite, channel your strengths. Do more of what you're best at. Delegate or automate what you hate, like paperwork. Find the right environment for you. I'm much happier self-employed, and many clients thrive in these dynamic roles like startups. So why act now? Untreated ADHD can lead to serious issues. Without tools, you risk forming negative beliefs about your own abilities. But with support, your ADHD can truly become a strength. So don't let ADHD define you. See an ADHD specialist and take control. And I'm going to end by acknowledging the pain and frustration of ADHD. It's real, and so is its impact. But your ADHD doesn't have to hold you back from pursuing your potential. And if you want more, feel free to join my 9-week ADHD career change program to harness your strengths. And comment below, what's your biggest ADHD challenge? Procrastination, overwhelm, or something else? Let's tackle it. I'm Treas. Hit subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next video. See you then.